Well, welcome to this terrain tutorial. In this episode here I'm going to show you how to take the pre-painted terrain sets from Gamemat.eu. You're going to focus in on one of those sets and show you how to very quickly and effectively completely change the colour scheme. And the aim is to take this entire terrain set and then get it to match in and colour tone it to match one of the battle mats from Gamemat.eu as well. And the idea is to combine the mat and the terrain to have the colours harmonious with each other and to create a great battlefield for your games of Warhammer 40,000. The key here, this is the main emphasis, is the straightforward, easy process that you'll see here. So maybe you've got a low skill level, you're coming into the hobby, or you're looking just to get quick results with terrain, then do follow this tutorial. It's very, very straightforward, step-by-step process that you should be able to follow along. So start the video, I'll guide you through the whole process here and show you the results that you can get, basically using some very straightforward techniques with high effect. So really what we're trying to do is take the theme, and we'll go and see the mat in just a moment just to get the idea on colours, but to take the theme of that mat and that whole colour palette that's on that battle mat and then to replicate that onto the terrain so that the two go together and match perfectly. So I'll bring in the terrain set first of all. So what I'm using here is the pre-painted solid terrain sets, the resin terrain sets from Gamemat.eu. They've got a wide variety of them, but they do sort of the larger sets. You buy one of the larger sets and it'll sort of fill up the whole table for a game of 40k. So this is the one we're going to be painting here in this video. So this is from the ChemZone terrain set. They've done one colour scheme which is like the yellow and the metallics, and they've also done ChemZone set 2, which is this one here, which is more of the cream bone kind of colour. With this kind of green finish around the bottom. So it does come pre-painted, so you're more than welcome to get a hold of the terrain set from them and then just play and use it straight away. But the aim of this video is to go for more effect with this and then to get it to colour match with a specific battle mat from Gamemat.eu. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to show you the mat, and that's going to give you like your colour palette, our colour reference here, just to sort of set this up to show you what the plan is. And then we'll run through, once you've got an idea of what direction we're going to go, and show you all the colours and materials that you'll need for this project. So this is the battle mat. It's called Urban Warzone, this one here from Gamemat.eu. It's 6x4 in size. I've just trimmed it down by putting an upside down battle mat across just to mark the sort of 60-inch across for our games of 40k. The idea is to fill this up with terrain. As you can see, the problem that we have is that this colour scheme and the other one for the ChemZone set doesn't really match in with this terrain, so you've got a conflict going on. Now it's okay, you could get out and play it, but if you really want to try and match things in, then the idea of this video is to show you just a revamp of the terrain. So it's built, ready to go, but we've got to sort out that colour scheme. So some nice simple processes to help match that in. So the same process for any battle mat terrain combination that you're going to go for. You first go to the battle mat and look for your colour references. So we've got some sort of stony white colours going on here. There's some greys with a hint of purple-ish going through very gently. There's some burgundy, fleshy kind of tones running through here. It's a nice matte, this one. There's a tiny little bit of green, but not very much at all running through here. But it's mostly, this is sort of your colour reference here that we're going to reference to. So that's the kind of colour scheme that we then want to transfer over onto the terrain to get it to match in. So, for example, I've been working on a whole terrain set here, but there's these. And we're kind of matching in the colours to the battle mats. Hopefully you can see that on camera. We're trying to replicate the colours that you can see. Straightforward process. Now these came in that colour scheme, so we've transformed them from that into this, and we'll zoom in a moment to show you the details. There's some more of those. So there's a large terrain set. This one, you do get a lot of stuff in with it. I've introduced a spot colour as well, this sort of orange glow, just to add in sort of a spot colour and area of interest. But same process being used for that, and again that terrain piece came in that colour scheme. There's one of the open vats across here, so I've gone again for this orange bubbling kind of colour. It complements quite nicely the overall colour scheme. So there's that just there, but just getting all this terrain to match in. There's all these across here as well, The pipes I've been working on, just changing the colour scheme on those as well. And then when you match your colours up nicely, you can start to bring in stuff like 40k terrain as well, same kind of colour scheme. So that gives you an idea of trying to match the colours together, matching the terrain in with the mat. So really that's what this video is about. It's going to show you the process from transforming from this over to this kind of colour scheme here. So that's the original colour scheme that it comes in, like so, and then just to line it up, that's the transformation that we're going to do in this video. So you've got all sorts going on here, nice bit of weathering going on, there's some metallic chipping, rust effects, there's some propaganda posters slapped on the side of this as well. I'll show you how to do that in this video also. So it's a straightforward process, but it's quite a transformation here. So it's sort of a radical change to the colour scheme. The buildings and sculpts are fantastic, but the aim is to try and get them to match in with the mat. So we'll go through colours and materials that you'll need. So just from Games Workshop, first of all, Agrax Earthshade, just for doing some of the grime and the washes. Then most of the work that will be done with spray cans, and this is where things get really quick. You're able to get some effects. So for spray cans, actually before I show you those, some other pieces I've been working on here. So there's this piece here, giving this sort of neon orange glow to it. That's that piece there, that's that Games Workshop piece of EUTPOST Terrain. And there's this one, container, again with a nice imperial propaganda poster on the side. This, again, part of the Chemzone terrain set. I just took the opportunity to go for that orange neon effect on there, as well as another imperial propaganda poster on that. But all of this done with the same process, just to link all the terrain together. So that's just some examples for you that I've been working on for this set. So for sprays, I've been using these, and they seem to work very well indeed. It's Colourforge range. So you've got matte varnish. If you're running Army Painter, then they're generally the same. This is the first time I've used these. So it's the Colourforge. The link for them is in the video description below. But the feedback on these is they're excellent. I've used them for this entire terrain set. It's decent sprays. And one of the advantages I've seen with this one is the quality on the nozzle. Here it's similar to, if not the same as the Games Workshop sprays. Doesn't seem to clog as much or flick out paint. You get more of a consistent result with these, which is useful when you're trying to spray up terrain. So I found that to be superior to the Army Painter ones. And then the other advantage of these is the size. So 400 milliliters for the Army Painter. Yeah, 500 milliliters on these. You are getting a bit more as well. They're larger cans and more content inside as well. But I've used, as you said, I've used 5 of these sprays here for this project, and I've run one of them nearly to empty, and they're great. They've lasted well. Nozzles are superior and seem to be a good job. So link to them in the video description below. You can use those. So matte varnish here, Sanguine red. Then standard grey, which is equivalent to uniform grey from Army Painter. Just matte white. And then trench brown. Now the colour represented here is a little bit deceiving. It's virtually identical to this, to leather brown. So if you've got leather brown already, that'll do for Army Painter. But the equivalent to that from the Colourforge is this trench brown colour. So that's the 5 sprays that I'll be using. I'm not going to spray on the screen here, but I'm going to do one stage at a time and then show you, just to guide you through the whole process. The idea is that we're going to use these sprays to do the vast majority of the work for us, and that's where the speed comes in. So everybody get an effect very, very quickly indeed. Because I'm trying to give you a balance here of nice looking terrain, but at the same time you don't get bogged down doing terrain for weeks and weeks and weeks. You know, that maybe a good afternoon, a couple of evenings work will get this terrain set up done. With this process, PVA glue you'll need. I'll show you how to do the imperial posters as well in this video. Add a bit of sponge, just roughed up and nipped out so it's not square. and we'll use that for a process for doing the rust effects. 2 metallics, this is from Dark Star Molten Metals. Again, link for them in the video description below. These are all associated with the Outpost, the channel sponsor here, and they've sent these through as samples, and I've been using the pair of these together. You'll see a bit later on when we zoom in why it's a good idea to run 2 metallics together for the effect here. But these are steel and graphite, so I'm using those 2 together. The handy thing about these ones is they come with a shaker inside them as well, just to help mix them up. You can hear that for those 2. So 2 of those will be more than enough for this project. Some brushes. Not too hung up on fine details here for this one, so I'm just using a shade brush, sort of an older brush here, and then a sister brush, a dry brush here as well, small, that kind of size. But notice no real fine detail brushes here. The idea is to move quickly, move with pace, and get effects nice and quickly. For the orange effects that you see here, I'll not show you how to do it in the video, but once this is all finished, you then can use these 3 colours. We'll come to it a bit later on, I'll cover it. But the colours are Troll Slayer orange, Flash Gits yellow, and then just a white. I've got ceramite white here, but one of the whites will do for that, just to get that nice effect. It just draws the eye and gives a little area of interest on the terrain piece, some of the terrain pieces here for this project. And then you've got the propaganda posters here. I've got pages of them. Just we'll cover these later on, but I've already done a tutorial for these on the channel a few years ago, but they're a brilliant job. They could just bring a terrain board to life. The feedback that I've got from these has been excellent from other people that have sort of followed the same kind of idea, but you can just really make your terrain strongly 40k themed once you start adding these posters, and the designs are fantastic. Just fan art basically that you'll find on the internet, and then you just collage them together, print them off, and use those as posters to go onto your terrain like so. It just gives it that 40k theme. So we get stuck into this then. First thing we're going to do is apply the sprays. So I just spray directly onto this, it's ready to go. First thing is to obscure and get rid of this colour scheme that's currently on this. So to do that, I'll use the standard grey. So I'll flip the model, I'll flip the terrain piece upside down. So I get all the angles, spray all the way around from on top just to make sure I get the underneath everywhere. Flip her over and then spray around and just get a full coverage of that grey across this. That's the idea, we'll do that first. Alright, so that's sprayed and now it's drying. As far as number of sprays that you'll need, it'll be one of each of those sprays, I reckon, if you're going to go for the whole project. The main spray that you'll use will be the grey. So I'd say I'm virtually at the end of that can. So that can's pretty much done the entire project. To be on the safe side, if you want to add in more terrain as well to build this up on the table, then I'd say go for a second can of that, just to make sure you've got enough. But that's that standard grey there from Colour Forge. As that dries off, it won't take too long. The next colour we want to do, again, just using the sprays, is to take the white. Now with this one, I'm looking to spray only from above, so I'm not going to flip this over anymore. We've got our shading from underneath, that's finished. So now we're looking to spray down, and it's to give like a light wisp of this across, and it's just sort of gentle sort of wisps across as you're spraying, and you just lifting that grey and making it like a dappled lighter grey by using the white paint. So be careful, do lighter sprays just to gradually build it up. Don't go for solid spraying on this thing, otherwise you'll put too much white on there and it'll be too much. You'll turn it. I don't want to turn this frame white, especially for sort of filming for my games. White's not so good, black's not good, so I'm trying to go for like a grey, something in between. Will come out well. So really going from the grey to pick up to something like this. There's other colours going on here, but that's that kind of level of white that you're looking to put on there. And if you just wisp it across, you'll get some of this grey coming through, but still have the white on top to get that effect. And again, just emphasise you're spraying downwards this way. And it's sort of like a Xenophore highlight, so your darker colour remain underneath, and then your highlight will be coming down from above. So that's the idea. That's the next stage that we'll do. So I'm just going outside to spray this, but that's just giving you an idea. So it's just sort of tack dry at the moment. And I'm going to spray straight onto that. It's tack dry, but I'll do, that's dry enough. I'm just going to go ahead and give it the white coat here, and you'll be able to see the difference. Alright, so that's the kind of effect you've got now. So if I roll that over, you should see sort of some of the darker recesses here still with the grey, and this kind of dappled effect that we've got going on now because of this white that's been sprayed on. So not solid white, we're starting to get a little bit closer to what we're after here. So you can see this is the kind of results that we have. Now if you remember that battle mat, there's other colours going on here. At the moment this is very cold, just grey and just white. I want to try and introduce subtly some of the other colours just to really make sure this matches in nicely with the battle mat. So this may surprise you, but I'm going to use a little bit of the red here, Sanguine red, which is a straight red from the Colour Forge. This is to be sprayed on very, very lightly indeed. It's just a small bit, but it's going to change the tone of this to almost a pinky-ish kind of colour, but I'm saying to you, really go for this lightly. Don't go heavy on it because you will switch it to red and pink and it will look wrong. But it's just the gentlest wisp of this across this to change the tone on this colour here. We're trying to get away from the starkness of this white because I want it to be snow. It's not quite snow terrain here. It's like more of a stone kind of colour, sort of light kind of stone, concrete kind of colours, as opposed to genuine sort of snow terrain. So I want to make sure we don't get this kind of starky white kind of finish. So you're looking for colours on your battle mat and trying to introduce them into your terrain to get the two to match up. There's a little bit of red going on here, so I'm going to drop that in gently, and again you watch to see the tone change after I've given this the lightest of sprays. And it's also from a distance, just letting that sort of a cloud of it just waft against it, and just to change the tone ever so slightly. If you do make a mistake and you really go over the top, which it happens, I've done it a few times, just go back to the start, take your area that you've done wrong, respray with grey, redo the white gently, and then carry on. And you can easily make repairs just by using the same process with the sprays. So repairs, there's no panic, that can be easily fixed. Alright, so I hope you can see that on camera. I think it's coming out alright. So you've got a flick of red across there, and at the moment it looks a little bit pinky, but again we'll fix that in just a moment. But it's starting to match these colours in here. See the lightest wisp of that red, and you're just shifting the tone over. That's all you're trying to do. Shift away from the starkness of that white, shift over to a little bit of red, and that'll show through the next colour that we put on. But I haven't really gone strong anywhere, it's gone on quite evenly. That's just gentle wisps, some distance away, so we're back here, and then just controlling the flow of that as I'm spraying those outside. So that's at that stage. The next, and really the last spray, other than the varnish that we put on later on to finish off, is your trench brown, or your leather brown from Army Painter, but trench brown here, virtually the same colour. Now for this one, we're now going to try and muddy this a bit. So we're going to shift from that to that. So hopefully you can see the different tone going on here. So, two processes involved. The first is when I spray on the base here, I'm going to spray the trench brown and aim for here, quite strong. Then the spray will hit against the side of this, and it's going to shade the base, the bottom of it. I'll show you on some of the terrain pieces here. So you can see this different tones going on. So the lighter tones up here, and this grime and muck around the base. So that's done not by spraying directly onto here, but by spraying just in front of it, and you'll get a natural faded finish with that brown. So done the same with all of these. You can see it on here as well, like so. Once that's done, you're then doing the lightest of wisps across the whole of the model. So you're now introducing, you've got your red, now you're introducing a bit of brown, and again that's just to change the tone of that, just to get away from the starkness of that white. So introduce the colours that are on that board into the terrain. So give that a spray up, and you'll see the change of this as well. Right, so that's how it comes out. So as I said, I've sprayed near the base and deliberately picked up more of the brown around the base there, just to match in with the terrain. And buildings often, they pick up more grime where the rain comes down, splashes up, and the muck goes against the base of the building. It's just kind of a very easy process just to make that look nice and realistic. And then a flick, again, similar to the red, perhaps a little bit stronger, but a dash across here of that brown as well. So now the strength of that red's been knocked down because the brown is in there, but that red is still in there, and it's helping affect the tone of the whole terrain piece. Notice there's no brushwork here, it's just sprays, and if you add all that time together, it's taken me about 3 minutes to get the effect that you see here. So I would say if you are in a rush, that's ready to go. You're ready to play a game now. You've got your colours matched up nicely, and that'll fit in with the table, no problem at all. So the next stages are optional. I'd encourage you to do it because, again, the next stages are very easy, very easy indeed. Very quick processes involved here, so I'll show you the next steps. Right, next stage is a bit of weathering, bit of grime. So I'm using a small dry brush here, sort of a square tip end, but you can use whatever brush that you want. And so brushwork on terrain can take forever, can take you absolutely ages. So the idea of this is to do something very quick indeed. So I'll load up the brush with this Agrax Earthshade here, the wash from, or the shade from Games Workshop. And the idea is to run this into the grimy cracks and crevices here. So I'm just going to drop some into there. Fill this in. Now I'm just going to move quick. I'm not worrying about being too neat here. I'm just sort of ramming this into all the cracks and crevices. Like so. Go around these pipes a little bit. Run down here. I'm going to use my finger just to do a bit of quick blending. And now we're starting to get a little bit of effect on that. With larger pieces like this, you can also start to do like watermarks. Now if I use a bit of this up around here, so I'm going to run this right in this recess here just to shade that in nicely. I'm going to run it around this vent and then just use my finger just to blend that all in. So you can do this here. Run the brush down. Like so. And I'm just going to use my finger to blend it in. I don't know if this is cheating or not, but quick process. See that? Nice quick bit of weathering. So I mean, what skill level is that? Like, there's nothing to it. Easily done. You can watch masterclasses on weathering and terrain, but sometimes the quick processes can be just as effective. Just use my finger again just to match them. But see, you're starting to create a little bit of and that is realistic. That's the way industrial buildings go. The rust and the grime and the weather and so on start to create these effects, and you're just adding in a nice bit of realism here. So again, just running that wash into the cracks here. I've avoided using, for this terrain, rust, because I use that on most of my terrain, and so it's trying to get away from my regular colour palette. I'm very happy about this. This is coming out nice. Don't want to go too over the top. Maybe flick a bit more down here, like so. I'll just keep the camera rolling here just to show you the speed of this. Flood a bit more into this deeper recess. Yeah, and you fill in the shading like this. It just makes the whole thing pop a bit more. So now around to the other side. So I'm just going to repeat the process along here. Really, this is about the only brushwork you're going to be doing. So run that into there. Use my finger just to fade that in. Starting to pick up some real nice results here. This larger piece is a good way of showing you the process. And I'm going to run it around the top. Like so. Just use my finger just to blend that all in. You're not using much shade, really. And this Agrax Earthshade is just nice colour. You're not bringing in a different colour, you're just making what's already there just a bit more grimy and realistic. I'm going to fill in the base here. This vent. Blend it in. Run a bit down here from the top. Blend it in a little bit. Keep running this around. I've virtually done this here. Just showing you this is one of the larger pieces here, so the other pieces are smaller. And then just I've connected up now where I started. Might fill in those vents a little bit. And this vent here, just add a bit more grime to that. There's the top to do. I'll keep rolling it, so it's a bit trickier. So I'm going to run the brush in. Use my finger again just to do a bit of blending. Now in here, you can take a semi-dry brush and just scrub, just to change the tone. If you go heavy, if you bring in a lot, if I bring in a lot of stuff here, see, it's too much, too strong. Now I've got to work with that and try and spread that around. I'll just run that around the whole thing. Now I've got too much going on and the brush mark's starting to show, so I'm going to have to use my finger to do a bit of blending on this. I might just keep rubbing that until it starts to dry out a little bit, just to recover from that. Too much. So that's recovered it a bit. And then I'm going to scrub into just some random sort of patches on here on the top. There's not much wash on this here at all. Don't want to go too over the top. I've virtually finished here. So we'll just flood it around here. The processes that I'm showing you, if you've got a different battle mat or you've got a different colour palette, then just pick and choose your colours, but you can follow the same techniques that I'm showing you here in this video. So I think that's virtually done. So that's the kind of effect that we've got. Now, hardly any brush work. We've moved quickly, not been too fussy. We've got all the different colour tones going. We've got shading done, highlights done, introduced the appropriate colours. We've got grime and stuff around the bottom, and also some weathering effects done. And again, that's on camera, that's taken me a couple of minutes. We've got nice effects now on this large terrain piece. Right, next process. I would imagine this vat's made from metal. So we're going to try and create that effect, help to create that effect with some chipping effects. Again, not going to use a brush for this, just a technique, which is super, super quick. Back in the day, I would have gone for doing chipping effects, and the terrain will take you absolutely forever, and it'll put you off doing terrain. So you want highly effective techniques, but speed is also key, because you want to get an entire terrain piece or terrain set done. A lot of people embark on terrain projects. They'll spend ages on a terrain piece, they'll get fed up, and they'll just get one terrain piece. That's no good. You want a battlefield full of this stuff. That's the idea, is to show you some fast processes. So we've got our two colours, Graphite here from Dark Star Molten Metals, and we've got the steel as well. Steel's nice dark metallic, and then this one, for just to lift it a little bit, it's the Graphite. So I'm going to give these a shake. Little shaker ball inside, which is great. And then just a little nozzle. I'm going to squeeze out the darker steel. And then we're going to take the Graphite as well, which is sort of a medium kind of silver, sort of lead beltry kind of colour. So we've got a terrain piece like this, which is quite light compared to others. So a lighter metal won't look quite so good, won't look quite so defined. So I've gone for the darker steel first of all to give it a bit of definition, and then it's a bit too dark and doesn't look too metallic-y, so then just to glint and to highlight and give that a bit of sheen to it, I would then add a bit of the Graphite as well. So taking my sponge, notice I've got the colour at either end, so I can alternate between the two without contaminating the two colours, is the idea. We'll zoom in a little bit here so you can get an idea of the effect. See if that's possible. Okay, so I'm going to go for the same process across the whole thing. I take it this entire thing's made out of metal. So first colour will be the darker colour first. So the steel. Taking my sponge, I've put some in and then dabbing it out because I want to blotch it. And then really you're going for the areas you think would be chipped. So it'll be things like the top of this. I'm just dabbing it on. Hopefully you can see that. This bottom corner. Start to see that going on. So there's not too much glint to it. So you're creating the darker effect first. We'll try and lift that in a moment. There, it's caught that quite nicely. If I zoom in, now you can start to see the effect. It looks better than brushwork and it's a million times quicker. I'm going to try and catch this corner. You know, and it's natural, random, which is, you know, it's got that kind of natural effect. Catch top of these vents. A little bit up the side. Do a few random blotches here and there, nice and random. Running up across here. We'll catch this top corner. Like so. But I'm happy with how that's coming out. So obviously there's the whole thing to do. I'm just going to go on to the next stage, just flip my sponge around. It's good to do the whole lot if you can, just to keep that wet and moist before it dries up. but I'll just show you here. So we've got the other side of the sponge. We'll then go to the graphite. Same process again, but not doing as much here. And I just want to catch the areas that I've done already, just to lift it with a bit of a lighter steel. So I'm just going to dab on there. We'll do a little bit here and see if you can see it. So you're catching new areas, but also the aim is to try and hit the areas that you've already done, and to introduce that lighter metal, and hopefully you'll start to see a bit more of a glint from this. Alright, I wonder if you can see that in more of a glint and metal effect, like so. So it's subtle enough, but it just gives you that lighter effect. So that's the kind of effect that we're going for. And again, you've seen how quickly I've moved through that. I'm just going to go around the rest of this here. It's going to take me a couple of minutes, and that's got all of our metallic effects done. Alright, so that's that done. See, it's not too over the top, but you've got a nice metallic kind of finish now. So you've gone for effect, but it's fast. This whole process, I would say, to do this entire terrain piece, this is a large terrain piece here. It's about 5 inches, if not more, tall. So you can use it as a nice piece of obscuring terrain. Good size to it. It's taken me about 10 minutes to get all of that effect done. 5 minutes to spray, 5-10 minutes work to do all the effects that you've seen. So you can move very, very quickly for your terrain, and that's great news because it means you can just get through the entire terrain set, get it onto the battlefield, complete the terrain project and get it done. It can get very, very discouraging. You get small amounts of terrain done, you shelve it. I've done it myself, but a process that you think, yeah, I'm flying through this project, getting great results. It really does spur you on just to get the whole set done. It means you can fill up the table with nicely themed terrain. And the other great thing is the skill level. There's not much skill level involved. I really encourage you to do a practice piece. So take one of the terrain pieces, something perhaps smaller. I practiced on this one here. So this is the one I practiced on with my spraying. When I was happy with the spray, just kept spraying it, matching it in with the table to make sure it matched up nicely. And then I did the Agrax Earthshade, practice just on one piece. And the same with the chipping. Then when I was happy enough with all those processes, just started to roll it out across the rest of the terrain. So do a practice piece. If you're not too confident or you're new to doing these kind of processes, then definitely just practice on one piece of terrain until you're happy with it. If you make a complete mess of the whole thing, you're really not happy with it, just respray it grey and start again. Try different colours. You may want to introduce different colours, or you're running a different battle mat. Then experiment with the colours as well. There is that process, or the tedious process of experimentation. So there is that to go through. I've tried to save you a little bit though, because I've already I'm a step ahead of you here by getting this terrain project to this stage, sort of know the colours that match in well with that battle mat. So that's that done here. So you can, other effects you can do is like a stencils, but one of the quickest, or transfers from your transfer sheets if you have any spare, especially for Adeptus Mechanicus, transfers look great on here. You can do that. Again, it's quite tedious and slow. One of the best ways I've found to transform this into 40k themed terrain is propaganda posters. They're so easy to do. They look fantastic, and it just adds like a super real aspect to these. So I'm going to show you how to attach a few of the posters next. So very briefly, I've just done like one big long run of these, and I just cut out and use the ones that I want. But you just go on Google, type in Astronaut Time or Imperial Propaganda posters, Warhammer 40,000 propaganda, Space Marine posters, and you'll soon start to find images. It's mostly fan art that people have created. I believe Games Workshop have created some themselves as well, but you can just use them. I've done them. If I take one design, it's just in Microsoft Word, multiple sizes, so that big, medium, large, depending on what kind of surface area I need it for, and just print that out on sheets. There's another design. There's so many good ones. Yeah, and some people have taken like 40k art and used it, or they've used World War II posters, propaganda posters. Let's Go Caddy, I mean, fantastic poster, amazing zoom-ins, you can see. The amazing designs that you can get. Some of them are quite sort of jokes. Good news from home, tanks, planes, guns and ships. National Retirement, I mean, fantastic, so good. I think that's the Games Workshop one. That's Ultramar poster. I do loads of these. Sometimes where you're doing effects where there's loads of posters slapped onto the side of something. I'll show you an example. So you can go for a real nice effect like this. So like multiple posters, which you'll see like in propaganda and billboards, often slapped with the same poster design, just filling out the space. You can do that again in the realm of 40k. And you're taking something that's quite plain. We've done lots of effects on this, but now you just bring it right into the 40k universe just with some simple posters. These aren't quite finished, a little bit of effect to do on those, which I'll cover in a moment. So just showing you some of the designs here. This man is your friend. He fights for freedom. It's like James's Paradise here. Look at these ones, fantastic. I think that's the Games Workshop one as well. Join the Mordian Iron Guard. Spot the difference. One of these guardsmen is a traitor. I mean, just so good. Love this one. Look, tech support, please hold. The Adeptus Mechanicus. Brilliant. One of you definitely going to use that. This one I think is a Games Workshop poster. God Emperor needs you. Join the Ashram of Tarim today. So yeah, really good. So that one there. I need you in the Imperial Guard. Different sizes. You talk of sacrifice. He knew the meaning of sacrifice. It's got a guardsman there on the barbed wire. So brilliant. So that's kind of the options you've got. So I've printed out a whole load of sheets of these. You may as well just do it all in one go. And then the danger is I've used an inkjet printer here just from home. The danger is if you start to add PVA glue and glues and so on and varnishes. Well, the PVA glue is water based, it can start to smudge and merge the colours. So I found a simple technique is to use varnish to seal it. So actually for these I've been using the matte varnish from Colour Forge. So you actually, once you spray the whole thing, both sides, a generous amount, letting it soak in, and that sort of holds the colours in and should hopefully prevent a fair bit, if not all, of the effect that the glue can have. So, I mean, I've done it on here. These have been glued and I can't see any smudging or blending going on. The colours have stayed where they are. So it seems to have worked. So that's a technique that you can use. Do that though, because the PVA glue can start to merge colours. You may have used a laser jet printer instead, which I think burns the pigment onto the page. You shouldn't have the same problem with PVA glue, but I'm not sure on that one. So again, it's worth experimenting. But that's for inkjet. This has been printed onto normal office paper. Nothing special, not photographic paper or any different kind of thickness. I'm not sure what kind of effect you get if you did use photographic paper. I've deliberately gone for this because that's what I have. It's also absorbent, absorb the pigment into it as opposed to sitting on the top. So, but again, for you to experiment with. But I've just used normal paper here and then just sprayed with the varnish. So I'm just going to put on a big slap of a poster on here. So I'm going to put this one on. So I just take a nice sharp scissors, be careful, just going to cut this out. Like so, nice and neatly, nice and square. I'll cut along here. Don't want any of the white coming through, so I'm going to go right along that line. Cut it out. And cut along here. So let's do one poster and then that'll give you an idea. So got a nice big size. I'm going to take advantage of this size here and just stick on this huge poster here to encourage the guardsmen to hold their ground. So in the realm of 40k, they need all the help they can get. So I'm going to squeeze out some PVA glue. Going to take my larger brush here. And just apply this quite generously to the back of the poster, just running out to the edge like so, so I don't get it around the other side. This is a larger poster, this one, so there's a fair bit of glue to go on. And I can just hold it the other end, doesn't matter if there's a bit of glue. There. just try and cover as much as possible, or all of it really, you want to cover. Right, so that's back to a hefty amount of glue. I guess you could use super glue, but I don't know, I haven't done that, so again, you can experiment with that. So there's my poster. I'm going to stick, it doesn't really matter where it's going to go, I'm going to stick it here. And I go for generally square, but not completely square. Mostly square, something like that. And I'm just going to use my thumb just to push it on. Now, I'm going to take this corner and just pull it down. Because using PVA glue, you can sort of mould it into shape. And I'm just pinching it with my fingernail here. And I'm going to pinch a bit at the side of this, put a bit of a kink in it. I don't want this looking perfect here, I want it scuffed, damaged. And that corner, I don't want that corner perfect either, so I'm going to put a bend on that. Like so, I'm going to put a bit of damage on here. Now you can take posters and you can have them half hanging down. You can go for all sorts of options with these. Whatever you do, just make sure there's enough of the poster pushed on. Just keep pushing it in to make sure it tacks onto the surface here. So it's come off there, so I'm going to just hold it in position just to make sure it's on. Any excess glue that comes out the sides, I'm just collecting it here with my thumb. Should dry see-through anyway. But I'm happy enough with that. So put aside a nice big Imperial propaganda poster. I may add a few more. It doesn't go too over the top, but you can do as many or as little as you want, doesn't really matter. But that's nice. Propaganda poster attached to that. So let's give you some examples. Put one on here, these have dried. Stuck a whole load around here on there, so only in death's duty end, you know, just repeat it 5 times just to get it into the guardsman's head. And here as well, must be very hostile planet, this one, expecting a lot of trouble. Loads of propaganda posters. There's one just nicely stuck on here, your new best friend here for the guard. So you're taking something that's quite plain and you just instantly bring it to life, and adding detail is so easy to do. So there's just one poster on that one. That's the one we saw earlier on. And you got one like this where some posters have fallen down. This one's, you know, perhaps the heat from this or whatever, it's come down here, and this one's fallen right on the ground. This is dry and it's sitting there quite nicely. Bear in mind you're going to be storing this, so think of the areas where it's going to get damaged and so on. So what I want to show you is the last process here, where the plain paper is seen. This is white. I want to try and weather that in and just add a bit more effect to these posters. So again, we'll just use Agrax Earthshade for that. So the other poster's still drying, so we'll do this just to show you. So I have got a finer brush, I should have mentioned it at the start, but it's kind of a size 3 here. So priority is to get that white, so I'm just going to change the tone on that. I think the white's too stark, so I'll just wash it over. A bit showing here. And you can do things like effects just by running the brush down, so a bit of weathering. That looks fine. You can do as much or as little as you want, but I think that looks better. And then down here. And this has been on the ground. So I'm just going to blotch that in a fair bit actually, just to make it nice and grimy kind of looking. These posters have been on the ground perhaps for a few days, a week, a couple of months, whatever. Use my finger just to cheat and blotch that in nicely. So I get a real nice bit of effect now in here. So very happy with that. Just want to get that in there. Like so, get around behind the poster. Blotch on a bit of effect. Catch this side. So I think the white's too stark, it sticks out too much. So I just toning it down to get something like that. So there's the posters. It's just on there. And again, something nice and plain, a couple of posters just brings the whole thing to life. Like so. So very happy with how that's going. So that's pretty much the whole process involved. Get those posters done. The final stage would be to use the varnish that we've mentioned already. So it's the matte varnish here. from Colour Forge, or it's another great varnish would be the Munitorum varnish from Games Workshop, an excellent varnish as well, but it's just to seal the whole thing. So I've got a little bit left, so I've got to just do that little bit of toning down on the posters there to finish that off, but other than that this is finished, and I'll just give it a coat of the varnish just to seal the whole thing in quite nicely. So you want one that's sort of a satin or a matte finish. Satin's best, so the varnish here seems fine from Colour Forge. I'd also recommend the Games Workshop Munitorum varnish as well. It just gives you that satiny kind of finish. There's no real gloss to it, but there's a richness to it, and it helps the metallics to keep those sticking out. But that finishes it off. There was some difference from the colour scheme that we had earlier on. It was alright, it's quite basic, but it didn't match in with that battle mat at all. It's the idea of this video and this project is to show you how to get that terrain, the battle mat, to match in with the terrain, so the two blend in nicely, so that you can create a nice battlefield for your games of 40k. So that's the project done. You should see all the materials that you need in the video description below. Do check out the Outpost, it's the channel sponsor here. It's for discount 40k, so that you can get all your discount 40k stuff from them, paints, accessories and so on. They also run those ranges that we've talked about, the metallic paints here, the Dark Star Molten Metals, excellent. And then also the sprays, the Colour Forge sprays as well, so you can check them out for those. But all the links for that is in the video description below. I plan to do a battlefield terrain tutorial, so we're going to take this terrain that we've crafted and painted up here and put it onto the whole battlefield to show you all the processes here, so we're referencing this process, but also other hints and tips to create an entire battlefield of this terrain, all themed for your games of 40k. It'll be a chance to see all of this set up for a 2000 points game of Warhammer 40,000. But do look out for more tutorials on the channel. Do check out the other tutorials that are available for painting models, and also there's plenty of terrain tutorials. There is a full tutorial on how to do all the posters as well, a bit more in depth, that's available on the channel for those. Keep a lookout for more tutorials in the future. Yeah, just before you go, I've been adding more posters here, but I did mention the orange effect here. So super easy, don't want to get too hung up on this again, so I just take the Troll Slayer orange, alter it down a bit on a scrubby kind of brush, something like this will do fine, and scrub it around beyond where I want it to go, just to create a glowing kind of effect around here. So scrub that on, blend it in with my finger again, and then take the solid orange and just run it straight through. Fill that in, both sides. Then for the highlight, it's so easy because it's all ribbed effect for you. So I take the orange, mix it with some Flash Gits yellow and some ceramite white, and then just catch the highlight across this ribbing, and then around the front of it here just add more white, and then do a final highlight just to create a glowing kind of effect. Looks fantastic, super easy to do, no need to get hung up on real sort of complicated techniques and so on, but something like that just to give you a bit of effect. It's just a nice orange kind of colour, spot colour on the board, just draw the attention of the eye, and it just breaks up sort of the standard spray effect that you've done. You've actually got another colour, some other area of interest going on the board. So that's easily done, but just remember to show you that at the end of the video. Thanks for watching, tune in next time.